What's going on, Dolphins? It's your boy Dillon. I'm back with you for another episode of Dolphins with Dillon. My portion is going to be really quick. I got a few interviews for you. There was one from yesterday I missed, TJ McDonald. Adam Gase has one. Coach Burke talked or spoke, interviewed, whatever. I think Darren Rizzi had one. So I got a few of them for you. So I hope you guys enjoy those, of course. So for my part of it, though, there's just a little bit of injury news to tell you about. It looks like Devontae Parker's practicing, and from all reports, it looks like he's going to be ready and available excuse me, for the game on Sunday versus the Jets, which is really good. So hopefully he'll be available and hopefully he'll be ready to play and, be able to get out there and contribute. The downside, there is one particular downside, and that is Josh Sitton has sat out for a second consecutive practice, which is possible. From what I can tell right now from all reports, it's possible he could miss the game. But as you'll see in Gase's interview, Gase said that's why we have, Ted Larson. Obviously, he started for us a bit last year. And so he would come in to that left guard spot if Josh Sitton has to sit out. Now, if that does happen, I'm not really too concerned with it. Tunsil has played next to Larson, and, they've been... so that and Tannehill's familiar with him. So I mean, there's and Larson's a solid player. The drop off really shouldn't be anything if or much if anything at all. So I'm not too worried about that. But that's it. That's the news I got for you today. Just some injury stuff. Other than that, we are, pretty healthy going into this game, which is really good. Like I said, DVP should be back, and hopefully Sitton will be all right for this game. But if he's not, Ted Larson will squeeze in there, and, we shouldn't, see too many we really shouldn't see any much of a drop-off. So, like I said, if anything at all. So anyway, with that, I'm gonna leave you guys to the interviews. If you like the video, if you like the interviews and all that stuff, hit the subscribe button, share it with your friends, leave questions, comments, concerns, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys soon. Fins up.
Games all the time, so you can't watch every game, but were you able to watch some or a lot of the Monday night games?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely incredible for a rookie to come out there, throw a pick six, for him to come back and respond the way he did. And, their team overall played well. I think that he got to make sure we get to him in the pocket and, definitely collapse that pocket and be able to make plays on defense.
Do you know if you've ever sacked or smashed or blown up an SC quarterback in the NFL?
Carson Palmer. I hit Carson Palmer a few times. I was playing in the NFC West, and so he was the Cardinals. But that's about it. Yeah.
Do you remember? Did you say anything to him before?
Oh man, it's always respect. So it wasn't nothing crazy. But I did train in Arizona for a few weeks in the off season, a few years back. So I gave him a little hard time about it.
TJ, when you watch a Monday night game like that, you watch it as a fan, or you're like, okay, we can do this to him, we can do that to him?
I think that in the case like this, when you got them coming up next week, you're not really watching as a fan. You're kind of trying to pick up signals, trying to do whatever you can, see tendencies and things like that. So, you kind of, when you're watching the TV copy, you always kind of see certain things as a fan. But also when the circumstances like, well, we got to play them next week, then you're going in looking for things.
So did he seem like a rookie?
He didn't. He didn't get flustered. They said it on TV a lot, but he was poised in there. That's a tribute to his hard work and his confidence level. So that's hats off to him.
Yeah, along those lines, his resiliency. Throws a pick six his first pass. It just didn't seem to bother him at all. He just came back and put it behind him right away.
Mm-hmm.
How impressive is that?
That is impressive, man. That's impressive. Coming in this league, it's a competitive league in a market like New York, and be able to go out there and do that. That's impressive. So you definitely got to tip your hat to that.
Did you follow him a lot at SC game?
I watched all the games. I watched all the games. Saturday is a big college football day for us in his locker room, watching all, the Rose Bowl runs and watching them, Pac-12 championship games, all that. So I definitely kept up with him. So yeah.
As impressive as he was, you think Cam and Robert are a little licking their chops a little?
I think they're licking their chops every week. They can't wait to go. So I know they're excited for this one, just like the other ones.
couple really, really good blocks on the inside. I think Jakeem really executed the play the way we like to execute it, kind of the little details we talk about it. And, you know, I kind of had a front row seat where I was sitting at. It was coming right at me. And just, you know, you can kind of see once Brandon got that kick out block, we had a nice seam in there. And then, you know, really Jakeem did the rest by outrunning everybody. But really, really, really good job by the entire unit. And Jakeem really just putting the cherry on the sundae, if you will.
You've been a part of a game where there was one on each side. He could go for return.
Unfortunately, I have. Yeah. So, riding the roller coaster. I think one other time here, if I'm not mistaken, one of the years up in Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken, Marcus Thigpen had a kickoff return for a touchdown. I think they returned a punt for a touchdown. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what year that was. You guys can look that up better than me. You guys have the info on you. But, yeah, I think that was one of those games as well where I think they had a punt and we had a kickoff. But, you know, certainly rode the roller coaster a little bit there on Sunday for sure.
What went wrong in that one?
You know what? You could. It's one of those all of the aboves. A little bit of everything there. First of all, start with me. Not a great call, not a great kick, not great coverage, not great tackling. So kind of we'll go with letter E, all the above. Wasn't really a good by anybody in that regard. You know, we got to be a lot better. That's one of the things we're going to improve on the most this week is just really our coverage. Something we take a lot of pride in, as you guys know. It was one of the things we were really, really good at last year, and that's got to carry on. We got to improve quickly in that area.
I've been wondering about Jason Saunders' kicks. A lot of them are falling short of the end zone. Is that by design?
You know, and if you guys know that we've done that a lot here, based on both. You know, I'm not worried about his leg strength even a little bit. So, you know, sometimes it's by design, sometimes it's not by design. You know, there's kickers who sometimes are trying to swing for the fence and kind of, you know, it's like a golf swing, if you will. Sometimes you chunk the ball a little bit or cut underneath the ball or get a little too much. So it can be a combination of things.
There's a lot mentioned this offseason about the new kickoff rule. Did you feel like that had any impact on either of those touchdowns?
Well, I think it's a much more wide open play. So I definitely do. Number one, for the kickoff return team, it's much easier to identify the kick coverage and who you're blocking assignment-wise. With the old rules, you go 6x4, you could motion guys, you could move guys around, and occasionally it's it could get confusing for the return team if you didn't really practice, you know, that particular week. If someone threw something new at you, a little bit of a curveball. So definitely, and I think I mentioned this already, it's a much more wide open play. When you don't have those, when you have those 8 players up, there's more spacing on the play. So again, a guy like Jakeem, and for their guy, you know, kudos to him. He made a big play too. So you see that more of a wide open play. You got to be able to tackle in the open field a little bit better, and there's not those wedge blockers, and so it's a more, like I said, you know, some people have likened it to a punt return. And I guess I could see that a little bit, but I just look at it as a much more wide open kick return play, and so I think you might see some. You know, I know the kick return average was up in week 1 and higher than it's been, and kind of see if that carries through the rest of the year. But overall, as I mentioned, I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I really believe in my heart that over the course of the year, you'll see the touchback percentage go down a little bit. You'll see more returns. I think it's a safer play and a more wide open play.
Balance, how would you say your special teams performed on Sunday?
Oh, you know, like I said before, a little bit of a roller coaster. Obviously, we had a huge play. We had a game changer, but we let them kind of get back in it a little bit as well. But, you know, you kind of look at it overall. There were some things you're pleased with. It's kind of like every game. Some things you're happy with. Sometimes things you got to improve on. We can't let up a big play. That's unacceptable. So, you know, in that regard, we got to certainly manage that a lot better. But there were some things I was very happy with, and it's kind of like every game for me, though. You know, I think there's always going to be some things that you're looking to improve on, no question, especially this part of the year. But on the same flip side of the coin, we had a big kickoff return for a touchdown. We recovered an onside kick at the end of the game with our hands team. We really handled the punt. They put 11 man up at the end of the game. We handled that very well. So situationally, I was very happy with that part of it, and so I thought mentally we did a really good job of just our execution, our tackling, our coverage needs to be a little bit better.
Riz, you know that during the off-season, a lot of the moves were about helping culture and getting football guys in and so forth. Has that bled down into special teams, and if so, how? Well,
you know, I think first off, you know, when you go back to the offseason, we looked at kind of where we were, special teams unit, and one of the priorities is getting a guy like Walt Aikens signed, you know, getting him done, and you know, but there were some guys we couldn't get signed back for whatever reason. You know, I'm not going to get into that right now. So there's some new bodies, there's some new faces, there's some of those guys, but that's really, Armando, it's a challenge every year for the special teams coach. every year, regardless of what happens, there's going to be change at the bottom of the roster. And that's, let's be honest, that's the players that I'm dealing with. That's no secret. It's the bottom of the roster, people that I have to do a great job, and we have to do as a special team staff of managing those guys. And that's going to be kind of a year, every year I've been here, this is year 10 for me. There hasn't been a year where there hasn't been some type of switch, some year more than others. Yeah, there might be 4 or 5 guys in one year, it might be 7 or 8 another year. So yeah, it's always going to affect me, and that's one of the biggest things that I'm challenged with is, making sure that group is no matter who it is, we're ready to play. And I felt like in some ways we were on Sunday, and other ways, like the big play, we weren't. But it's certainly a challenge, there's no doubt.
When you make an addition like Bolden,
Yep.
who comes with a reputation as a really solid, good locker room guy, that's what does that mean to you?
Well, first of all, I thought it was a great addition. He's everything right now. I've only known him personally for a short amount of time here. I've always played against him and coached against him, I shouldn't say. I didn't play against him. That would have been ugly. I've coached against him, and so, I knew him as a player. Now I got to know the person a lot better. He's everything I expected, maybe a little bit more. Very well prepared, very mature, great locker room guy, great preparation in the meeting rooms. I mean, I made mention about him this morning in our special teams meeting. Here's a guy that was here for 4 days, not one mental mistake, was in the right place. We threw a lot at him. All the terminology for him was different. Special teams is special teams, but all the lingo is different. His terminology, his alignments, his assignments, all that. He played a clean game, had a huge block on our big play. So I think he's a great role model for the guys that are maybe just getting here, or the new guys, or the rookies, or the young guys. This is a guy that I feel like the other guys could follow and look at him and the way he practices, the way he prepares, and the way he plays. So I think he was a great addition. And I think he kind of falls in line with what you're saying, the locker room, that type of guy. That's the type of guy that we're looking for around here for sure.
Right. He's here only, 4 days? Denny's been here 14 years. You haven't been here quite that long. But what's he like? What's his personality like? What's it to work with? Give us some insight.
Yeah, John Denny is a gosh, I have 2 daughters, and if my daughters marry a guy like John Denny someday, I'll be very, very happy. He's the kind of guy that he is A+ across the board, not only as a player. I forget about him as a player. As a person, he is a A++ guy. Off the field, he's a great human being. He's a person that's going to give you the shirt off his back, literally. He's a very religious guy. He's a great father. He's a great husband. He's just a tremendous role model as a person. And I have nothing but everything I could say positive about him is everything's going to be above board. That guy is great. Not only that, now as a player, we're talking about preparation, his off season, all of that stuff. I always use him when the younger guys come in. I watch what this guy does. Look how this guy trains. Watch how this guy prepares. And even though he's a long snapper, forget about what in between the lines. Watch everything he does outside the lines, and that's what a professional football player, in my opinion, he is kind of the I keep using that term today, role model. He's kind of that role model of a football player, and so. It's not a surprise to me that he's lasted this long. He's in great shape. We've talked about this before. He's in phenomenal physical condition. Although he's going on 40, he's probably as good a shape as anybody on this team. And so that's why he's been able to last. Obviously, the position helps as well. I get it, but certainly not a surprise to me.
If he snaps the ball 100 times, how many are going to be good? Perfect snaps.
He's probably grading out at about an A, So I would say, 90 out of 100 or more. He's, field goal snaps and punt snaps are obviously different. Great guy to talk about that is Matt Hawk. Matt Hawk's catching every snap that he throws back there, whether it's a punt or a field goal. Obviously, Matt's our holder, and so Matt's going to tell you that he really enjoys having him there for sure.
I was wondering, because you don't have depth at the specialist positions.
Yeah.
Do you take a survey at some point in August, say who's long snapped before, or who could kick in a pinch? How do you find the emergency guys?
That's a great question. We have ways to do that. So we got a couple unique ways to do that. Obviously, we go around and we'll have a little bit of a foundation coming in. We know the player coming in if he had any background. If the player didn't have any background in college, and we'll go around, we start asking, about high school, and then sometimes we trick some guys into it too. So, for example, I may say something like, hey, I know your high school coach. He let me know you were a long snapper in high school. And the kid's like, my high school coach? How'd you know I snapped? And I didn't know his high school coach. So, So he was like, I can't believe you talked to Coach Smith. I didn't talk to Coach Smith, but I'm glad I know you long snap now. So now we'll start practicing that guy every day at long snapper. So there's a bunch of different ways to go about it. So no, anyway, so I'm joking, but I'm not joking. So myself and Marwan, we go through the roster and we find out, background guys on really their whole life. Have they been a returner? Have they been a snapper? Have they been a holder? Have they been a kicker? Have they been a punter? Because, again, with 46 guys on the sideline, as was the case on Sunday, you never know when that situation is going to present itself, and you got to have options. And there's been games. I know my former assistant, Dave Phipp, up in Philadelphia, he had a game a couple of years ago where they were down to their third snapper. Their snapper got hurt, and the guy that went in for him got hurt, and they were down to the third guy. So, crazy situation. So you got to be prepared for all these scenarios. And so we kind of have a pretty good baseline on everybody and what they've done. And at any point,
how many snaps did Durham might have taken since he's been here?
He's taken more on one-on-one team reps, not a lot. Because you guys know we don't get a lot of team reps to begin with, and so the ones that we're making, so we'll throw our guys in there. Whether it's been Mike Hull, Marquise Gray, Mike Hull and Marquise Gray were two of our snappers. So obviously, actually going into last week, Marquise Gray was really our backup snapper.
Durham's like fourth string on this.
So Durham, yeah. If you asked me this question in preseason, he would have been fourth. That's correct. That is absolutely correct. Before,
I'm sorry. Like I would say, Sue as the emergency kicker is a little surprising, even though we know that he's done it in Detroit. But have you ever come across some random thing like Rashad Jones knows how to punt or anything like that?
No, you know what? Everybody says they're a kicker. Everyone likes I could kick because they want to score points. So then we'll line guys up and say, okay, let's see what you got. And it's ugly. It's disgusting. As a special teams coach, it's gross. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. Bad. It's bad.
What's one that was good that you were like, oh wow, this guy can do this?
Believe it or not, we've had some guys that are smaller guys, like small receivers, that have been able to snap, like they played quarterback before. A lot of times you can throw the ball pretty well, you can snap pretty well. So there's some little guys that we found throughout the years that have been some pretty good snappers. There's been a number of guys that have been some smaller guys. But again, then you go into a lot of the offensive linemen have played center throughout the years. Those guys can snap. A couple guys on our roster can short snap. So there's been some guys that throughout the years, whether it be kick, punt, snap, but we got to know. We got to have those plans, and as you said before, you never know what's going to happen. So
Taylor was your backup, wasn't it?
Jason Taylor was. I'll give you a great story. I'll give you a great backup snapper story. So here he goes. One of my favorite stories since I've been here. So we had a punter here my first year, second year, an Australian guy that came in for camp. His name was Jai Bond. I don't know if you guys remember Jai Bond. So Jai Bond was a punter that we had here in the preseason. So Jai goes in, and just like we would do it once in a while, every once in a while we'll bring our backup snapper in. So we bring up Jason Taylor. So this was year 2 for me, Jason Taylor. So this is 2010, if I'm not mistaken. So Jason Taylor, we said, JT, take this last one, take this one. So Jai Bond, growing up in Australia, he doesn't know Jason Taylor from Lawrence Taylor, okay? So he's back there, and Jason Taylor snaps one. He snaps the ball a little bit high, and Jai kind of scrambles and punts it off, and the punt period's over. Well, the punt period's over, and everybody's walking off the field. And Jai Bond goes, hey, 99! And Jason Taylor's walking off the field, and he's like, kind of thinking to himself, I know this guy didn't say that. So he's walking out. They're about 20 yards away. He goes, I said, hey, 99! And Jason Taylor looks over, he goes, yeah, that snap was a little bit up here. And Jason Taylor goes, hey, buddy, why don't you do me a favor and just kick the effing ball? Don't worry about me. So we had to kind of bring Jai over to the side, kind of explain to him what, who he was dealing with at that point. And of course, to this day, JT and I actually laugh about it. I saw him last night at my son's JV game. Our sons play together, play football. So every once in a while, we joke around about that one. That's always a good one, though. Hey, 99. So that's my good backup snapper story. I thought you guys would enjoy that one. So
Quickly, sorry about how many guys on this roster could do it if called upon?
We have, again, we always got to have at least 3. As a backup emergency. Right now, I'd say there's 4 guys on our team that could snap if it had to an emergency situation. That's not including Hull and Gray. Hull and Gray, yeah. Yep.
I'm not going to be able to top that, but you had McCain and TJ McDonald play every snap on defense, and then 12 and 11 snaps on special teams. Yep. Is that the higher end of the usage you want to have?
Yeah, well, you know what? You look at those snaps, I want to say 5 of them were field goal block, which is a defensive play for us. And then we had another defensive stay on our punt return. We kept the defense out. We only brought the returner in and kept the defense out. So I think that was half of their snaps. But you know what? As always here, we're going to have starting players. We're going to have roles. Especially defensive players. That's been the case, as you guys know, throughout the team we're playing this week. The Jets do a lot of that. They got a lot of defensive players that play on one or two teams. Bobby's been a starter here before, and he's always been on a couple things. TJ did the same thing when he was in the Rams. So some of the jobs they've done before and are used to, they're always going to be usually involved in at least one team. And a field goal block is kind of a separate unit. So appreciate you guys.
Offense you started the game in it. When is it used? What's the pros and cons to its usage, and why is it a right fit for these two backs?
Sometimes it helps hide run pass. There's some things in shotgun that it's hard to do. Sometimes the pistol gives you advantage in some of the play action passes that tie into the running game.
What pleased you most about what you saw on offense Sunday?
Just number one, getting the victory. I think this is some extent the delay hurt us because as we started building a little bit of momentum here and there, then the game kind of felt choppy. Even offensively at times I felt we were a little bit choppy, and right when I felt like okay, you could feel in coaches like in the play calling, like he being aggressive, felt we had a good feel for the game and how the thing was going to go, and then the delay started a little bit, and but the thing that was really pleasing is how the guys persevered. And, yeah, it was resilient. There's a lot of things going on that were weird and had to get, you cool down, you have to get loose again, you cool down, you get loose again. There was no complaining. It was, they handled adjustments, and we started, is you give coaches that much time, and all of a sudden we start drawing up ball plays to come out and do in the second half, and just with that much downtime, they handled all the adjustments really well.
So you guys were drawing up plays during the break?
It was that much time. We were sitting around like going through what had happened in the first half and started making adjustments, and how coaches are. You give us a lot of time to sit around. We're going to think of stuff to do, and just trying to help our guys put in better situations.
Was there one that you can share with us that worked?
There was some that worked, and there was some that didn't work. No, I thought they handled all the adjustments well. There were a couple things that came up. Obviously, the touchdown pass was the 75-yarder stills that we felt like we had a pretty good beat on when we could get them in that coverage, and Coach called it at the right time.
Do you think you would have been as likely to call that then if you hadn't had all the time to think and analyze what had happened?
Yeah, I think we would have gotten to it, but you're just sitting around thinking about, like, hey, how they playing us. We've run these plays. What can we come back off of it?
What's your role on Sundays? What do you do?
My role is to fulfill the vision of the head coach and give advice when asked.
And anything specific you can share as to what you do?
No, just it's a unique role because we have a play calling head coach, and as the offense coordinator, I'm there to when he is talking to defense, and obviously there's a lot of back and forth between Adam and I on the headset, and between the quarterbacks obviously play a big role with Ryan on game day, and just fulfilling in wherever I need to fill in.
Do you remind him of stuff that you guys have talked about earlier in the week that he wanted to get to and may not have done?
Yeah, we go back and forth throughout the series, as the series is going, in between series, what they're doing, the adjustments we need to make.
In terms of the blocking and physicality you got from Marquise, do you have that yet with Durham or any of your tight ends on the roster, I guess, AJ? Or is Durham just not at the point yet in his maturation process where he's able to do for you what Gray could?
He's going to get there. He is. It's early in the season. We played one game. He's working really hard at it. He understands the role that he has to fill in this offense, and he's doing a good job with it.
Where is AJ Derby in terms of contribution and level of play, all phases that a tight end has to play?
Hey, he's doing a good job doing what we're asking to do, and he's playing some at Y, which at point of attack, and he's playing some as the F, as the pass catcher, and he's going to continue to fulfill that role. And there'll be plays that we have in for him each week that we think that he's better than the other two at, and there's plays that Mike's going to have that we feel like just utilize his strengths more.
You guys always plan to have everybody play a different varying role. So how much does that change with Marquise being?
It didn't change much, because we had planned on those guys, all four of them playing and being part of this offense. So just shifted around who plays more, and as the game goes, we'll continue to make adjustments as the weekly matchups continue to change. Then we'll continue to game plan and figure out what those guys do well that week.
You said when you were hired, you said this recently, but you were thinking back to when you were hired and you took stock of the speed that they had, these were becoming your players now. What was specifically your initial impression of Devontae Parker and what you saw him possibly developing into?
Just, we did a lot of work on him when he came out. That was the year when we were in Chicago and we drafted Kevin White. So obviously he was in that conversation of guys, and you just saw a good football player that's got length and size, and you definitely, that's the thing that we don't have right now when he's, as he hadn't played last week, was he's got size and length, and that's different than the group we have right now. So the thing that we're excited about is hopefully when he's back ready, putting him in the position like we do with all the guys and do things he does well, in our opinion.
We do have a question mark at the offensive line with Sitton's injury. Is that, I'm sure it doesn't change your game plan completely, but is it tendencies that you may have run with Josh would be different with Ted or vice versa?
Well, definitely, if there was something where we couldn't, if we weren't going to have Josh or any of our guys, we'll look at what the other guys do well. We try to put them in situations to be successful, and obviously New York's got good inside players, and some weeks the matchup would be different. If it was a tackle or a center or however that is. So, just does it change things? Absolutely. If you didn't have someone at any position, you looked, hey, how is this matchup going to affect us in the game?
Can you describe how the sense of appreciation for what Frank Gore is as a running back changes when you get to see him live on your team as opposed to either on TV or when you're coaching the other team?
I think I probably feel the same way that you guys feel for the last 14 years. I mean, he's been a prominent player in this league, and he's an unselfish player. He's a team-first player. And just the way he goes about his business in a professional mannerism, it works. And, he wants to practice every day, and our guys have done a really good job, managing him and giving him reps when he needed or take a day off when he needed. But just to see him go out there and be unselfish and play, and he plays hard, he plays physical, and he brings that element to our offense that we expect, and that's why we signed him, is to bring that element, that downhill runs. And he has the ability to run outside and go off tackle as well, but he definitely has that presence. And the one thing that Frank, you have a great appreciation for is when you run powers and inside stuff, he has this unique ability just to get skinny and find a way through a hole that you don't think that any human can fit through, and all of a sudden, like, Frank shoots out for like a 6-yard gain.
What do you like about Paul?
So he's one of the guys that we came in. We brought him into Miami during the pre-visit, the pre-draft visit stuff, and he's got a unique personality. He's got like a swagger to him that you really like. He's an accurate guy, throws with anticipation, put up really good numbers in college, and when we had him here, you just feel how smart he was, and we in the pre-draft visit process, and it's been fun to work with him. He works really hard. We do stuff every day with him, and just trying to really right now just trying to figure out what he can and can't do and his strengths and where we got to improve as Ryan plays and we get to develop another young player.
Even sort of. We had like some short drives and some long drives. It's kind of a weird deal. But I didn't really feel like there was any issue. It was pretty clean.
All men wound up playing on the first series that Tennessee had. Was that planned if it was going to be a longer series, or that's just the way?
Nope, this is the way it went.
So the media told me.
Oh, the media. The media's always right.
Yeah, Robert Quinn and Cam Wake were going to be on the field and going after quarterbacks together and stuff like that. How often did that really happen?
They were on the field together a pretty good amount, I think. I couldn't give you hard numbers on that, but really, I think in terms of our rush numbers, I didn't think we had much of an opportunity to rush. If you really look at true drop back passing game, I thought one of the areas that we have to get better at was our first and second down defense. Really, our second down defense. We made some plays on first down and kind of got behind the chains, and then we were kind of not as good on second down, and so we didn't have a third and longer than 6 until the fourth quarter. So it's hard. The ball's coming out quick when you're in 3rd and 2, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and we were always on shorter down distance. I'm pretty sure we had our first was a 3rd and 9 almost in the fourth quarter late in the game. So the first 6 to 8 third downs we had were all sort of 6 or less yards to go. So it was, they weren't giving us opportunities. But I mean, that's our fault. It's not up to them to give us opportunities. So, we have to do a better job on the early downs to put us in those situations. So it wasn't really towards the end of the game when we got a little bit of a lead and had a chance to, there was true kind of knew his drop back passing game was coming out. But before that it was screens, quick game, balls out quick, boots. I just felt like we just didn't have really an opportunity to truly like kind of pin our ears back and rush. So I mean, those guys were on the field together, and we were rolling our groups and trying to get into some of that. But you limit yourself to in third down. Defense is what you can do when you're kind of behind the sticks a little bit.
Optimally, third and long, those
Yeah.
are the two guys you want in there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
What did you like best about what your defense did? Anything stand out? Any unit or any?
Well, I think, bless you. I think probably the biggest contributing factors to us winning the game were obviously the takeaways. Number one, obviously something that we've been emphasizing and having the 3 picks and kind of timely interceptions, a couple of them kind of after those breaks, kind of jump-started us a little bit to get back into some things. And not a total lack of, but a somewhat, I probably would say the second factor is like a lack of explosive plays against us. By our test, we only had 5 what we consider truly explosive plays, and really nothing overhead. We had the one, the tight end kind of sneak route out the backside on us. So I mean, limiting explosive plays and then obviously getting the 3 takeaways was huge. So I was happy with those things. We didn't really have any balls go over our head in the passing game. And again, obviously, point of emphasis this year in terms of takeaways. So, I mean, I think in terms of just on the field stuff, those were 2 kind of critical factors for us. And then, I'm sure it's probably been said by a lot of people this week. I mean, the resiliency and sort of mental toughness those guys showed was awesome. Like every time we're in the locker room, it just didn't feel like there was any panic or anything worrying or just anything. Everyone was really relaxed, and when it was time to hit back on the field, they just mounted up and went back out there. And so and for that second one to come, like sometimes that can be kind of demoralizing. And I did think we got a little sloppy after that second break. That's where kind of a lot of our missed tackles came and some of the stuff. We got a little looser in the run game, but I think that was just a hard, mentally, tough game to go through, and they showed a lot of resiliency, battling through a 7-hour game.
What's your definition of explosive plays? You said there are 5. Do you have a number? I know past regimes have used like 17 yards.
Yeah, usually any run over 12 for us. I mean, that's maybe a little bit stingy for us, but any runs over 12, we had like the 26-yard run that busted out late on us, and it passes over 18, so kind of in that realm. Everyone has kind of their own definition, but usually right around there. You know what I mean? So.
How would you rate Minka's play in his first regular season game for you?
Solid. Made some plays, left some plays on the field. Love to see him finish that game off with a pick, obviously. Had a couple other things. And, again, a lot of times with him or just any of those younger guys that are playing for us, there's just some stuff that they haven't seen. But obviously made a huge play for us to go on. That's a great play for him to push through on the 4th down play, and had a couple other stops before that. So, again, and not, a lot of times in that role, with him playing inside a little bit more, and then the nickel role, like, you didn't really notice him on a lot of stuff, which is good. He wasn't giving up plays. He wasn't targeted. He didn't miss a lot of stuff. So made the plays that came to him, made a couple of really good plays, and like I said, left a couple on the field that really could have solidified it, an even better day for him. So he's just, I think the more that he plays and the more he sees some things that he just hasn't seen before, and he just keeps growing through that, he's just going to keep getting better and better.
Matt, what have you learned about Akeem Spence since he's been here?
What I learned about him, like as a person or in general? Akeem Spence, he's as a person, he's very a gregarious kid. He's very outgoing, very personable, always a smile on his face, very happy, like loves being part of the team, loves playing ball. So that's just fun to be around. Obviously, having a history with Chris, as a position coach, kind of has a good understanding. I think he's a good conveyor of the message. He has a good understanding of what Chris wants from a technique standpoint and how we're trying to play some things up front. And so he's done that before. He's obviously had a history, in that scheme. So sort of for him to help some of those other guys out in terms of trying to help get them caught up to speed on what we're looking for. So he does a good job with that, sort of like doubling down on the message and having been through it for a season before this, he's kind of probably more ahead from a technique standpoint, just because he's been, repping it and practicing it and training in that system for a year. So he helps a lot with the other guys and stuff, but he's got a big personality, kind of thing. Pretty much most of the people in the building kind of took to him, instantly, and that's all. He's always fun to be around. I like being out at practice with him. He loves playing ball, so it doesn't matter whether it's slogging through the heat at a practice or in game day. He's always up and energized, and he's a good personality to have with the team.
Vrabel had some words for Andre Branch. Did you have any issues with that hit?
No. We just try to coach our guys on what the league tells us. I don't know. There wasn't a flag on any of those plays, and so I can't respond to what Coach Vrabel's thoughts are.
Do you take personally when teams or other coaches might question?
No. Nope. I don't take anything personally.
Is it a pride that this team plays clean though for you?
Yeah, like I said, that's not. We try to coach within the rules. And we have constant dialogue with the NFL league office and what we're trying to tell. I have no problem with it. Anyone wants to question my coaching style and my coaching abilities or techniques, like, I'm an open book, and I'll tell you exactly what we're telling those guys. And so I don't see that at all. Again, it's a hard game to play. It's a hard game to officiate. A lot of stuff's happening fast, and the hits that have been questioned, neither one of them were flagged. So I can just go off that, and if they change that and want to come back to us and tell us, hey, this is not something that we're looking for, then we'll adjust what we're telling our guys to do.
How do you understand the NFL rule on the RPOs with the quarterbacks?
Yeah, my understanding is that if the quarterback carries out a fake or continues the action of running, that he's eligible to be contacted, that he's still in a running mode. If he shows his hands or steps back away from things, then he's not eligible to be contacted. So that's what we teach our guys. If you're defending RPO type games, there's always somebody that's on the dive and on the quarterback or whatever the other elements of the options are there. So again, that's my understanding until someone tells me otherwise. That's how we're going to keep coaching our guys.
So you mentioned the resiliency of coming back after that couple of long breaks. What players are making sure that everybody does that, gets together, stays together, plays together?
Yeah, honestly, I know it was talked about. I think maybe Ryan talked about it. It was there was two different sort of ways the breaks approached us. That first one came, and it was sort of like they just kept pushing it back. So we were kind of almost always on call waiting. We came in, they're like, hey, it's going to be half an hour, and everything gets passed, and then they come back and, it's going to extend it out another 15 minutes, another half an hour. And so we were never, it was kind of a weird deal. Everyone was kind of waiting. Every time we thought we were about to head back out, they'd come back in and say, no, we got to wait another however long the time break was. So that was a little different because we were a little bit kind of on edge. Everyone was kind of waiting. They thought we were getting back out there sooner than we did. And then the second one, they kind of told us right away, like, hey, this is going to be a stretch here. They told us it was going to be possibly up to a couple hours. And so, at that point, it was just like, you didn't want to keep guys on edge for another 2 hours, locked in. So we kind of just let them do their own thing. But every time I came back, we have our own locker room, that we were kind of doing some things and making sure we were on top of what we wanted to adjust to. And then every time we came back out, man, those guys were just kind of hanging out together, which was cool to see. And there was just a very I was just at ease. I didn't feel any anxiety. I didn't feel anything else. I wouldn't say there was one person calling guys up or anything like that. And so, I think it kind of became a point of pride, just that again, as that thing extended and went on, it was like, hey, when we get back out there, this is what we have to do type of thing. So it was just kind of, I wouldn't say I didn't necessarily say there was one guy that was rallying the troops per se, but it was just a really collectively, there was no panic, there was no anxiety. It was like, all right, hey, this is what they're telling us that we have to do to win the game today. That's what we're going to go through, and we all left the locker room together and got it done.
How
I got just one. Hi. Feeling better today.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear
How
that.
how does Minka's personality, demeanor, and maturity align with the idea that he'll be playing in front of many family and friends going home this week?
Oh, well, I think he had a lot of family and friends down here last week too. So, you know, I don't think he thinks about any of that stuff. I mean, he's all about ball. So, you know, he's like that in practice. So on Sundays, I think he just applies what he does in practice to the field. So when it's time to play, I don't think he's thinking about who's in the stands or who's watching on TV or anything else except what I have to do to get my job done this week. So I don't think that even plays into anything that factors there.
Did the additional information you got on Darnold from Monday change your impression and game plan, or is it about what you expected?
Well, we waited. Obviously, really not necessarily just because of him, but just obviously, you know, there was sort of a lack of, you know, history between the coordinator and the quarterback altogether and doing all that thing. So we waited to really get into our game plan and stuff till a little bit later on Tuesday morning. We watched all the stuff, but we wanted to put that game into the cut-up. So it definitely, obviously, you know, factored into things. You know, you never know. Obviously, you watch preseason games. That's kind of a little different element. So, you know, I thought obviously he was, you know, had an impressive debut. And, you know, I've coached in Detroit. I've coached Monday Night Football games in Detroit. That's a loud stadium. It's a hard place to play. I know the game got kind of out of hand as it went on, but you know, I thought, you know, he showed a lot of poise handling that, being on the road. I mean, starting your game on, you know, obviously besides just being his debut on the road in a Monday Night Football setting in a place that I know personally is a pretty loud environment. So I thought he showed a lot of poise, and then obviously, especially after the first play, kind of coming back and didn't show like a lot of, you know, rattled or anything like that. So, you know, that's going to be an evolving picture for us just as we, you know, get to know him better. Obviously, having to face him a couple times a year, most likely for the next however long. So, but yeah, we obviously will use that game to factor in some of the things we're doing.
How difficult is it to prepare for a quarterback where there's just not that much film on him?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we have obviously like evaluated a lot of those guys through the draft and try to have some sense of what we feel like their strengths and weaknesses are. And you know, some of it you're dealing with schematic issues in terms of just whoever's playing quarterback, what we're doing. And so yeah, it's hard. And it's not to say it's hard, but yeah, there's just less information. So you're sort of projecting some things and trying to anticipate what, you know, what their answers are or what they're trying to do to help him out, you know, be successful. So you know, we've put a lot of stuff together just, again, from college and what we had information there through the draft process and what we've seen on film in his preseason games and obviously their night. So obviously, you know, we play them again however many weeks down the road. You'll have a bigger sort of database of sort of information to work off of, but we got to work off what we got right now. So.
Do you talk to quarterbacks when they come through here?
In the draft process? Some. Depends. Not, I don't make a point of it. For like me personally, I'm usually pretty busy, but sometimes I mess around with them a little bit, depending. Yeah, we'll see. Usually I talk trash to him.
Torrey getting 5 snaps at corner last week, was someone hurt, or did you just want to give him opportunities in a regular season game at corner?
Yeah, that was not an injury factor. We just, you know, again, at some point down the road in this season, like, you know, there's a lot of guys are going to have to play football for us. So, you know, when you have an opportunity to try to get some of those guys some work and some real game action, and you know what we did, we actually moved Minka back to safety to get him some extra work there, and bumped Bobby to nickel. You know, so just like guys that, you know, we've been working guys in a certain spot, so now we can start playing around with, okay, maybe making sure those guys are still getting some reps and some action at some other spots we may utilize them at. So, you know, we had a little bit of a lead. Not that the game was in hand, but we just felt like, hey, this is a good opportunity to maybe get a look at some of those guys and give them some real live action. You know, you can't simulate that in practice or anything. So it was just a good opportunity for Tor to get some real game work for us.
Is there anybody that stood out to you that had a great game, you know, after you watched the film from last week?
Rashad Jones. Stood out to you? Yeah. I mean, obviously he made 2 great plays and made a lot. He does a lot for us. He was kind of back in midseason form. So, yeah, you know, I thought Bobby played pretty well for us too. Again, kind of under the radar a little bit. Didn't make a lot of big plays per se, or, you know, have a lot of stuff happen. Had that huge breakup for us on the goal line. on the play or two before the fourth down play down there. So that's a huge play. Saved me. We had a little bit of a scheme flaw there that he kind of covered up for. So he kind of did some things like that maybe didn't totally go recognized. But Bobby played really well for us. Obviously, Rashad made some impact plays. I thought Kiko was flying around. Obviously had the pick, but made a lot of their plays there too. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty steady game. But we were, I'll be honest with you, like again, to be Debbie Downer, we were sloppy. Like I thought we were just sloppy. I think I was very proud of the resiliency and the toughness and stuff they show, but we left some stuff on the field that we can't leave on the field if we want to continue to win ball games. So I mean that was kind of one of the themes for this week is there's some stuff that we have to tighten up. So I mean there's some guys that play well, but even the guys that played well, we just got loose on a couple things and stuff that wasn't exposed necessarily in the outcome of the game or things that happened. But again, as you move forward through a season, like we can't win ball games all the time doing some of the things that we did. So we've got to tighten up the sloppiness and really detail out some of the things that again you guys may not have noticed or maybe didn't really impact this game, but they will impact future games. So I think everybody has a lot of work to do.
Thank you.
Their nickel packages, then they have a large variety of just straight rushes or exotics that cause problems.
Generally, how many games does it take to know, okay, this is what I want?
I mean, probably that first quarter, you're probably, by the end of that, if you stay healthy, you have a good idea of who you are and really what you can lean on and what you need to stay away from. But I do think it takes some games and some different defenses you play to kind of figure it out, like who can handle what.
Do you have any update on Josh?
I do not. I think I was something.
How's
this evening?
How's Devontae reacted to just the impact of the ball hitting his hand?
He seems fine. I mean, I think he's itching to play. So, I mean, we went through today. He got involved in team reps. Now it's just me going in and asking Kyle, okay, what was the reaction? He hasn't complained about anything. He's been aggressive to get out there and catch as many balls as possible. He did a good job of staying in shape. So, I mean, he's running-wise, he's good. I just got to get the info from Kyle.
The injury that he could re-injure?
That was one of my first questions, and it sounds like, the fact that we let it go as far as we did as the healing process, that he should be strong.
How much do you think he wants to play this game because he's trying to get rid of this injury-prone label?
I don't know if it's so much that. I think he's excited to get going. When you don't play that first game, you're kind of itching to get to that first one. So I know that when he tells me that he's ready to go and he wants to go, and when he's that emphatic about it, that's a good sign for us.
Adam, late last game, defensively, you switched things up a little bit. Torrey was on the boundary, Bobby in the slot, Minka back at safety. For one possession, how much information can you get from that, and how might you apply it in the future?
I mean, it's really the way we look at it is we kind of rotate those guys a lot in practice anyways, and being able to get them going in a live game and just moving guys around, it's really, you have to look at games are an extension of what we're doing every day. I mean, we're going to sometimes do some things that maybe we haven't done, in games before, and put guys in different positions. And you're always just trying to figure out who are your best 11 and how do they all work together. And because at some point that group might have to be out there if something ever happened to a guy. So we have to kind of really work that angle, especially in live games, to get a good feel with each other.
If Ted Larson has to play this week or in the future, what should we know about your comfort level with Ted Larson?
Well, that's why he's here. I mean, he started for us last year, and that hurt us last year when he got hurt. That was a big loss for us, and we had to shuffle a lot of pieces around because we had so many reps with him, and so him going in, was the main reason that we wanted him on this team, was if something ever happened to anybody and he went in the game, like we were really, really comfortable with that, because we feel like he is probably a starter at a lot of different places, and we were lucky enough to have him here.
Both he and Jesse have position flexibility. You like Jesse on the right side?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to go through all this time and, move Jesse all of a sudden and throw that. And plus, it's the more I've kind of been around this group, that relationship, that guard-tackle relationship is important.
With the captains, the guys had C's on their chest. I'm assuming that they're permanent captains. What roles do captains have in terms of what your expectations are?
I think for us, it's really, just we're all delivering the same message. I mean, those guys are vocal guys, and they're the type of guys that they take pride in their group and what side of the ball they are, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams. And that's really what we're looking for. We're looking for those guys that will step up when things get tough and things aren't quite going the way. Who's going to step up and who's going to be a guy not only to play well but to be vocal as well.
Who chose him? When it comes to these rivalry games, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Who chose the Cavs?
Don't worry about it.
Did you pick or-
Yeah, I did. I picked him.
When it comes to these rivalry games, what do you tell, if anything, the rookies, the first-year players on what to expect going into a place like
Nothing. It's another team. Division games, no matter who you're playing, it amps up because everybody knows it's 1 and 2, and you almost feel like each division game, it almost feels like it's either 2 wins or 2 losses. So there's that. That's the added little bit of intensity that occurs in the division game.
You usually both captains.
Right. I changed it this year.
Why?
Because I wanted to.
Thought process?
Yeah. It's just voices told me to do it, so.
Was there any pushback from the players in Dayton?
Not that I heard.
Would you care if there was pushback?
Bigger things to worry about.
Yeah.
Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the interviews. I hope you enjoyed the show. And as always, if you did, please hit the subscribe button, share it with your friends, post on Facebook, whatever, hit the like button, and definitely leave me some comments, questions, concerns, anything you'd like to see or hear in the videos, stuff like that. So definitely let me know, and of course the most important thing is subscribe. So with that said, I'll see you guys soon, and Phins up.